guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Sarah. I make videos every single week here on YouTube talking all about my skin journey and how my acne went from this to this. Today is going to be a slightly different video though, because I'm talking all about how I managed to get my period back after stopping the pill. So if you're struggling with this at the moment, or you're just struggling with period problems full stop, then you're in the right place. I found a lot of really great useful information for everybody, and these are the things that I did to get my period back, which I did successfully do after 5 months, so stay tuned. So just to paint the picture a little bit better about what I was dealing with at the time that I lost my period, I decided to go high carb, low fat vegan in hopes that it would clear my skin. I've made a whole separate video on that, but to cut a long story short, it really did not help. I think it really contributed to losing my period, and it definitely made my skin a lot worse. Another thing that I'd done recently is obviously stop the pill. So I'd been on the pill for 10 years and had never taken a break. So this was a complete shock to my body. And I went on the pill for my skin at the age of 16. So when I stopped taking the pill, I was 26, and that had been like a full 10 years. And really up to the point of being 16, I'd only had regular periods for probably a year. So yeah, by the time I was 26, I'd only ever had a year of real periods. So after a couple of months had gone past and I realised my period was nowhere to be seen, I really took measures into my own hands. I thought, there's no way I want to let this sit. I want to be able to have kids one day. I really want to make sure everything's working. And this really worried me, probably more so than actually having cystic acne. I really wanted to make sure everything was okay. So I did everything that I could in my power to make sure I could get my period back. So the first thing I did was take a good look at my diet. So I realised after sort of 2-3 months of no period at all that my diet needed to change. So the first thing I did was I upped my calorie intake, because I had read in a lot of places that if you're restricting your diet, that is going to have an impact on your period, and I didn't want to be doing that at all. I'd also known friends that had been on restrictive diets and lost their period, so I thought, is that what I'm doing to myself? I really hope I'm not. I'm eating a specific diet, but I didn't think I was really restricting, but I definitely was. I was completely restricting in a way that I hadn't really thought about. I was restricting by ruling out an entire macronutrient, of which I've explained was fat. So whilst I'm saying it was high carb, low fat, it was almost high carb, no fat. So yeah, that's the first thing I did. I started introducing more fats into my diet, so things like avocado, coconut oil, nuts and seeds. Slowly but surely, I started to reintroduce those things to make sure that I had some fat in my diet. However, this didn't really seem to cut it. It was okay. I could feel things changing in my body. Like my skin would start to get worse at certain points of the month, and then less severe during others. But to be quite frank with you, my skin just looked awful throughout the month. But I could start to see some sort of changes, almost like a bit of a cycle happening. And that was probably after 2 or 3 weeks of eating this way. After I realised that the vegan lifestyle was not helping me at all, I then started to introduce some meats and fish again too. So I think these also contributed to having a more higher fat diet than I was previously. So at about the 3.5 month mark, I then reintroduced meat. So things like chicken, things like fish. And yeah, I definitely think this contributed to getting my period back, because after that, things definitely felt like they were changing. I felt like I was starting to have things like period pain, or I started to feel like there was definitely points in the month where I could feel mood changes. So something felt like it was kind of working in there. The second area I had to look at was exercise. I had been exercising loads. I felt like I wanted to be, doing things all the time, particularly when you're eating this way. You're eating a really high sugar, kind of high fruit based diet. You have a ton of energy. So I was doing things like going for a run, I was going to the gym, I was doing different classes. But what I decided to do was completely kind of pull that back and have a rest. And I decided I wasn't actually going to do any of those exercises. And the only workouts that I was actually going to do was yoga, Pilates, and just really light things at the gym if I really felt like I wanted to. But I didn't have that strict mentality of having to go to the gym every day or having to go to the gym sort of 2 or 3 times a week. I just let that go and decided to give myself a break. So of course, like you guys are probably doing now, I took to the internet and I felt like I really needed to research this and work out how I could balance my hormones and bring back my period. So there was a few websites that I went on. I've actually got my laptop here because I have opened them up. And these are the ones that I would probably recommend that had loads of really useful information, and I'll link them down below as well. The first one is Dr. Sarah Gottfried. She has a website, so she's obviously really specialised in this, and she looks at all different kind of hormone profiles. I looked a lot at her website to see if there was information that I'd kind of missed when I'd just been kind of generally Googling. And yeah, there was a wealth of information. I won't even begin to sort of explain the types of things that she talks about on her site, but I really started to think that there was probably a problem with my progesterone. So that kind of took me down another kind of pathway. I would also recommend looking at Nicole Jardim. Yeah, I'll put her website down below too. And then finally was another website which was called Flow Living, and I think it's by somebody called Elisa. Yes, Elisa. Her website, not so much. I think she really wants you to sign up to her whole protocol. I did buy her book, which I read, which was kind of like all the sort of things I already knew. But to be fair, it is kind of a good starting point if you don't know anything about how to get your period back and you're not sure about your hormones. They all really recommend going and getting a hormone profile done, which I kind of wish I had done at the time, but I am looking into doing at the moment. Just to see, I mean, they are quite expensive, but I think it's good to see a full hormone profile before you actually start to kind of target different hormones and balance your hormones in general. But the one supplement that kept coming back time and time again on these websites to try in order to get my period back was a supplement called Vitex, or chasteberry, or chasteberry. I think it's under quite a few different names. But this one herb I really hold responsible for getting my period back, and I'll explain why now. I started taking this exactly 1 month before my period came back to the day. I kept it, I logged it as a record, and I started to take it 2 capsules every morning as soon as I got out of bed. Now, I'm not saying this is completely responsible for getting my period back. I'm fairly certain if I hadn't, chilled out on the exercising and changed the way I was eating to incorporate more healthy fats, then maybe this supplement on its own would not have worked. But I do know that as soon as I started taking this, my skin started to, I wouldn't say clear, but the cysts really started to reduce, and the redness definitely was not so severe. So I took this for sort of 2 or 3 weeks, and then on the 3rd week, I really started to feel like I was having period pain. And I didn't want to get overexcited. I didn't want to kind of, think that the herb was doing everything it needed to be doing by this point. I really wanted to wait to have a period. And so that week leading up to it, I was convinced I was coming on my period, absolutely convinced. And then when I finally did, I was the happiest person in the world. I remember just calling everybody as if it was like, the most unnatural thing to get a period, or it was like the first time I was getting a period. It felt really emotional, and I felt really, really happy that I'd finally been able to work it out. I know that there are certain diets that you need to be on for different medical reasons, but when it comes to really reducing or ruling out a whole entire macronutrient, you need to be careful because your body is not going to like that at all. So since then, I then went back on the pill, which is a story for another time, but it really was just to give myself a help with my acne. And I had all the intention of coming off it again, which I did. And I have made a video separate about my kind of Roaccutane experience, going back on the pill experience, and all these different things I did to help clear up my skin. So this time last year, I completely stopped taking the pill for the last time, and I've had a period every single month for the last 12 months. And I really hold that responsible to eating a good, solid amount of fat in my diet, healthy fats, but really importantly, eating those fats so that you can actually have those building blocks to create those hormones and make sure that you are going to be, working. So I didn't think it was necessary to start taking Vitex before I really saw if my hormones were going to balance themselves. And I was really grateful when I got my period back exactly a month after stopping the pill last year. So I didn't continue taking the herb. I had read though that if you want to avoid taking chasteberry for whatever reason, you can start to signal to your pituitary gland to start working by taking the supplements vitamin C and magnesium together. And this should really have the same sort of benefits. And I read this on Sarah Gottfried's website. So if ever you are really struggling with trying to get your period back, I would really recommend doing these 3 things. So one would be introducing more healthy fats into your diet so you can start creating those building blocks for your hormones. The second would be to have a look at your exercise regime. Maybe you are overdoing it and you're really stressing your body out. And the third thing I would do is really consider taking the supplement Vitex. And if you're not keen on taking that, or you can't find it anywhere, then I would also recommend looking at taking vitamin C with magnesium at the same time. Because honestly, I feel like this is a really good start to bringing back your period naturally. So please comment down below if you've got any questions. I would love to help. I know everything that I've said might only work for me and might not work for other people, but I really do think this is a good start and a good place to begin if you're really struggling with trying to get your period back. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you liked this video, you found it helpful, then please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you want to see more content like this one, and I will see you in my next video. So my idea for today's video is to run you through exactly what I'm going to eat. I really believe that the best way to clear your skin is through diet. I've seen real changes in my skin when I've cleaned up my diet and ruled out refined sugar, refined carbohydrates, and obviously that's what I've been eating a ton of over the Christmas period.